Namaste.
Namaste.
Well, it's good to be with you again this week, and I look forward to our time together. Let's begin with a few minutes of meditation, and let's chant Om. Open your mind and your essence of being to the infinite. However that ultimate reality is known or imagined, acknowledge it as omnipresent, everywhere present. We honor the great saints of all enlightenment traditions. We honor the divine nature of every person. We acknowledge the truth of our own being, knowing that at the deepest level of being, we are one with the infinite, and that all knowledge of the infinite and its processes is within us. Let your meditation proceed naturally and easily. Observe your breathing. Be aware of the air coming in through the nostrils and flowing out. Doing this can help to focus attention. Just let the breathing occur naturally, let it happen. And then as you proceed, notice that when your breathing is slow, that there are occasions, usually after inhalation, there are occasions of temporary pause. And during those occasions of temporary pause, notice that streams of thoughts in your mind stop. And you have an opportunity to experience pure awareness without the presence of thoughts in your mind. And yet you are fully conscious, fully alert. With practice, as you experience this state of clear awareness and become familiar with how it is to experience it, you can then choose to be there in that clear state at any time. When you are meditating and at other times when you are not meditating, when you want to be peaceful and objective. And doing this is helpful to learning to be established, first aware of and then established in our essence, our changeless true nature. So during your personal meditation, your private meditation, you can observe the breathing for several minutes longer, and then eventually, when you are very calm, disregard the breathing and just be still in the deep silence. And at that time, your innate urge to have your awareness completely restored to wholeness, to clarity, will determine the meditation experience. And meditation then will become spontaneous or easy or natural. It will just happen. And now, before concluding this short session of meditation, let's turn our attention to the people on our planet, the more than 7 billion people around the world, and radiate goodwill to everyone, everywhere. Pray for or wish for the well-being of everyone, for their health, their happiness, their prosperity, for having harmonious relationships with others and the environment, and above all, for their spiritual awakening and their conscious realization or knowing of their true nature and relationship with the infinite. And as we do this, the purity of our consciousness and our intentions blend with the collective consciousness of the planet, with the lives of all people and all life forms on the planet, and we beneficially influence everyone and everything. And by doing this, we are reminded that our spiritual awakening, our spiritual enlightenment, is not only for us, but as we become more spiritually conscious, everyone who is influenced by our mental states, states of consciousness, and wise actions are beneficially influenced. So let's chant Om once. Peace. Today I want to talk for a while about meditation practice and share some methods, some procedures that will enable you to meditate more efficiently and more successfully. Meditation, as we teach it, is simply sitting and arranging conditions so that the mind can become very calm, and the emotions can be settled, and our awareness can become very clear. So it is not a matter of having to work hard or use force to accomplish anything when we meditate, but simply learning how to relax and let go and remove our attention from restless thoughts and troublesome emotions, and of course from external conditions while we are meditating, so that we can experience our pure essence, which is always what it is. At the deepest level of being, our essence, our being, is always pure. It is whole. It is peaceful. And it knows the truth of what it is. And it knows its relationship with the ultimate reality or the wholeness of life. So a few minutes ago, we simply used this process of observing the breathing as a way to focus attention. It's something that anyone can do. If you're teaching your friends how to meditate, and they're not perhaps on a spiritual path or very religious or interested in spiritual growth, but they would like to meditate for the psychological and physical benefits, you can teach them how to do it by watching the breath. Just watch the breathing. And when the breathing becomes very slow and smooth, then the mind becomes very calm and the awareness becomes very clear. In many parts of the world today, people are meditating for the psychological and physical benefits, even if they are not consciously on a spiritual path. And many doctors, for instance, and health providers and advisors recommend that their patient clients meditate to manage stress, to experience a strengthening of the body's immune system, and the slowing of biological aging processes, and to improve powers of concentration, and to be able to think more clearly, more rationally. And also meditation will develop the powers of intuition and will improve the capacity of the intellect, the ability to discern what is true in contrast to what is not true whenever we examine something, whether it's something out here or whether we are examining our thoughts. So the so-called side benefits of meditation are very beneficial, and that's why everyone can benefit from meditation practice, almost everyone. There are some individuals who shouldn't meditate deeply until they become more psychologically balanced. For instance, a person who has severe bipolar or psychiatric or neurotic problems shouldn't meditate deeply because they will simply go deeper into the subconscious and have more confusion. But most people who are functional and reasonably healthy-minded can meditate with benefit. And as I mentioned earlier, when we sit, we don't have to struggle or force anything. Mainly what we're doing is getting the mind and emotions out of the way so that our inner awareness can be self-revealed or self-expressed. So there are a variety of meditation methods, and I recommend that we learn several of them and then use the ones that are most suitable or compatible with our psychological temperament. There is no one method that works for everyone because people are different. Their psychological natures are different. Some people, for instance, can meditate effectively by watching the breath until the breathing becomes slow and then they detach attention from it and rest in the silence. Others find that for them, prayer is helpful in the beginning to start the meditation process. So when they first sit, they pray to God as they understand God, whatever their understanding of God is, or whatever their knowledge of that reality is. They pray, and they pray for success in meditation practice. They pray to be more spiritually conscious, more God conscious. And then after praying in that way, then they are very still, and they simply wait in the silence to see what will happen. That's the important part of that process. First, the asking, and then the waiting and watching with an attitude of surrender, of letting go, and being there, being available to experience whatever awakening process that will occur during that meditative occasion. So for many people, prayer is a very good, positive entry or beginning to meditation practice. But remember, after prayer, one waits and watches in order to be receptive to the response that they can have from within. And that response is from within, the deeper levels of being. Also, in the very beginning, until one settles into the practice of meditation, one may use an affirmation. An affirmation is a declaration, a statement of what is true, or what one can be true, and what we want to be true that can be true. It has to be possible. We can't affirm that we are something that is impossible to be, or that we are going to have an experience that it is not possible to have. That would be fantasy and would lead to frustration. And so when we affirm, we want to affirm what either is true or what is possible to be true and that we can actually experience. So we can affirm the truth, for instance, mentally, when we first sit, as a reminder of our true nature. We can affirm, I am a spiritual being. That happens to be true. I am a spiritual being. Because remember, we are units of the pure essence of an ultimate reality that people call God. Therefore, we are spiritual. We have human characteristics. We have an intellectual faculty. We have a mind. And we have emotions. We have, until we are self-realized or spiritually awake, we have a mistaken sense, a small confined sense of self-identity, usually identified with our personality and genetic characteristics and family history and so forth. But what we are inside is we are spiritual. That is our essence. That is, the life of us is spiritual. So it is all right to affirm, I am a spiritual being. Now, some people, when they begin doing this, they may feel a little uncomfortable because they will say, oh, I don't feel very spiritual. I'm not a good person. And I have some unpleasant thoughts. And I do some things that I know I shouldn't do. That is surface stuff that's going to be changed. Inside, at the deepest level, we are spiritual. So we can affirm, I am a spiritual being. And the way to use affirmation this way, when you start to meditate, is to speak it. If you're alone, by the way, if you are alone in a room by yourself, you can speak out loud with conviction. I am a spiritual being. Over and over, I am a spiritual being. I am a spiritual being. And then mentally, I am a spiritual being several times. And then let the mental affirmation go and just have that conviction, that awareness, that reality of I am a spiritual being, and endeavor to experience that I am a spiritual being and rest in that for a while, in that experience. And it's helpful to have that attitude, that understanding from the very beginning of our meditation practice, because we then understand that we aren't trying to become a spiritual being. We are simply endeavoring to awaken to the realization that we are. If we are sitting here thinking that I am a confused, incompetent, beginning meditator with a lot of psychological problems and inability to concentrate, and we limit ourselves by having this identity, this idea of what we are. This is an obstacle to success in meditation. So we want to affirm, I am a spiritual being, and believe it. And then proceed from there to meditate, to calm the mind, to have the body relax, have the emotions become settled, and have the awareness become more clear. And this will naturally occur as we stay there with the process. And it's important to stay alert, to be attentive, to observe what is happening, to avoid being passive. For instance, if you are meditating with your eyes closed like this, and after a while you notice that your head starts to drop like this, or you are notice that you are simply not being attentive, you are not focused, you are daydreaming and thoughts are just running through your mind, or you're very passive and you're just sitting there just sort of half asleep, that is not useful. It won't hurt you, but it won't benefit you either. It's really a waste of time. So if you have that tendency to get into that place, that mood of not being very alert, not being very conscious, not being very attentive, just sort of passive and dull, sometimes you can use will or intention and get back on course, get out of that. But if that doesn't happen, then do this. While you're sitting there, open your eyes and look straight ahead, off into the distance. Don't let your eyes move. Just stare straight ahead without looking at anything. That is, don't look at the wall or the window or anything in the room. Just stare with that vacant gaze, just like that. For a while, and you may notice when you first do that, that steady gazing and just being there like that, you may notice that that causes a temporary stopping of breathing. That for a moment, your breath stops. It's all right. Your body will breathe when you have to breathe. You don't worry. But notice that when your eyes are open, you're looking straight ahead without allowing your eyes to move. For a moment, there is a non-breathing. The breathing stops, and then it starts. But you are aware in the moment. With your eyes not moving, your thoughts are also inclined to stop, or at least slow down. And for a while, you can just be there in the moment. Peaceful, calm, poised, conscious, aware. It's not a mystical experience. It's not self-realization, but it's better than sitting with your eyes closed in a half sleepy state or hypnotic state. And then later, if you want to, you can close your eyes and resume meditation in the ordinary way. But by using this procedure of open eyes for a while like this, you can learn that you can have a clear state of awareness, what is called super consciousness, with your eyes open. You don't have to have your eyes closed to be super conscious. After all, when you're not meditating, you can't walk around with your eyes closed. You have to see your environment so you can interact and move around in space and time and still learn to be inwardly self-knowing. You can have a clear awareness or a clarified state of consciousness when you're not meditating. That's the idea. You meditate to the stage of clarity of awareness, and you become accustomed with how it is to be like that. And then after meditation, you can maintain a degree of clarity of awareness and objectivity when you are thinking and talking and attending to your duties and interacting with other people. But you are inwardly poised at a deeper level of being. So this is very helpful. This is very helpful to learn to be aware in that manner. So again, affirmation until you get to the stage of experiencing what you affirmed as being true. That can be helpful. Or another form of meditation practice or technique really is to use what is called a mantra. The word mantra is a Sanskrit word and literally means that which protects the mind. But really it's only a word or a phrase or a statement that we use to focus attention. For instance, we chant Om, and we consider that to be the sound of the cosmic vibration that produces universes. Some call it the word of God, or the word that produces cosmic manifestation or produces universes. But merely the chanting of that sound of Om, merely the chanting harmonizes the feelings and the mind somewhat. But there are other mantras too. Any word will do. For instance, if you are watching the breath when you are first starting, and you observe when you breathe in and you breathe out, if you want to add a little mantra to the process to help your concentration refocus, then choose a mantra that is pleasing to you, that is comfortable for you to use. Perhaps when you breathe in, mentally say Om, and when you breathe out, mentally say God, or any word you use to refer to God or deity or ultimate reality. Om when you breathe in, God, or any other word when you breathe out. So here you have a word when you breathe in, a word when you breathe out. That keeps your attention focused on what you're doing. It is not hypnotic. You are not trying to condition the mind. You are simply being attentive. The Sanskrit mantra, which some people who practice yoga like to use, is Soham. It doesn't mean anything. Sometimes teachers say it has a meaning. It means I am that supreme reality, or I am that pure essence. But you don't have to think about what it might mean. Just use the words or the syllables. When you breathe in, mentally say so. When you breathe out, mentally say hum. That's it. So when you breathe in, hum when you breathe out. So when you inhale, hum when you exhale. That gives your attention something to fasten on to, so you aren't involved with thinking. But notice that we're not suppressing or repressing our thoughts, and we're not trying to condition or hypnotize the mind. We are simply consciously putting our attention on something that will keep us focused. And we do that until we feel very poised, very calm, very centered, and then we let it go. After several minutes, we let the mantra go. We just let it go away. And we rest in the after effects calm state that results. Very conscious, very clear-minded, very calm, very centered. So that's how we use mantra. It's very easy. It's not mystical. Of course, in the yoga tradition, it is taught that if a spiritual teacher gives a mantra or a word formula to a disciple with intention, with purpose, that sound or that mantra is empowered by the intention and the spiritual force of the teacher, and that makes it very useful for the student to use. But for general purposes, any phrase or any combination of words or any word or sound that we use as a mantra will be sufficient. It will enable us to focus our attention until we don't need the mantra. We can let it aside, put it aside, and rest in the calm, clear state that results. And when meditating, it can be helpful to have attention and awareness associated with the front part of the brain and the higher brain. Now, it is not necessary to forcibly roll the eyes up like that. The eyes might tip up a little bit, but we don't have to strain to do it. We just have our awareness there. Just be aware there in the the front part and the higher part of the brain. And the reason for this helps to remove attention from outside from everyday matters and situations, and even from our what are called subjective or inner conditions, our physical sensations, our emotions, and our feelings, and so on. In this way, our attention is elevated beyond, goes above those conditions while we are meditating. And also, it has been discovered in recent years during studies involving volunteer meditators, this is at universities in the United States and Europe, and perhaps in your country, researchers have used brain scanning devices to see what's going on inside the brain when people meditate. And they've discovered, years ago, they discovered that when a person is meditating skillfully, that the front part of the brain is involved in that process. The front lobes of the brain, and you can look this up on the internet, the front lobes of the brain, the front part of the brain, is associated with controlling of impulses, self-control, making decisions, creative thinking, and decisiveness. So, and concentration. And this is one reason why yogis and mystics of other cultures often recommend that meditators put their attention here, that when they start to meditate, to internalize attention, also to activate the front part of the brain, which is used for concentration and creative mental work. Also, it is the part of the brain that is used for control our impulses, controlling our inclinations to do things. You know, in teenage people, teenage boys and girls, sometimes get into minor trouble because they do things without thinking, or they take chances. They drive recklessly, they jump up of high places to dive into deep water when they shouldn't, or they'll do things they really shouldn't do. And when they're asked, why did you do that? They'll say, oh, I just felt like it. I couldn't resist. My friends were doing it. And they encouraged me, and I just couldn't say no. I know I shouldn't have done it, but I just couldn't say no. And so the psychologists say, well, that's because the front part of the brain isn't yet highly developed, and so they don't control their impulses. And that's not true of all teenagers, of course, but there are some adults who are 20, 30, 40, 50 years of age who act like that, who don't control their impulses. They go shopping and they buy things they don't need, and they waste money, or they say things in a social situation that are awkward or embarrassing. And they say, I just can't help myself. I just can't control myself. Of course, a person who says that really is affirming weakness, because really we can control what we say. If we can't control our thoughts in the beginning, at least we can control, or our feelings, we can control our behaviors. We can control our speech. Then we can control our behaviors. And after a while, we acquire mastery of our mind and our emotions and our life forces. So meditation will help a person become more self-controlled, self-disciplined. That's why when we meditate, we focus attention and have on something of interest, and we stay with it. Now, we recommend that meditation be practiced on a daily basis, making allowances for occasions of interruptions of schedule, of course. Sometimes you say if you meditate in the early morning, that there may be a situation that arises, a family situation or an emergency, or perhaps you had to stay up late the night before and you didn't get enough sleep. So you might miss your early morning meditation, or you might not be as skillful in the practice of it every day. But it is helpful to try to have a daily schedule, and for beginning meditators and even advanced meditators, it's good to meditate at the same time every day, if possible, to develop that habit of doing it. And you know how it is, when you do something on a regular basis, you look forward to it before the time you do it. If you wake up in the morning at a certain time, before long you wake up without needing an alarm clock. You simply wake up at the time that you agree that you want to wake up. If you eat at the same time every day, your breakfast and your noon meal or evening meal at the same time, when it's almost time to eat, you think, oh, it's time to eat, or it's time to exercise, or it's time to make that phone call, or it's time to go to work, or it's time to meditate, or it's time to read some scripture, or some inspirational literature. You get into the habit of doing useful things, and that is helpful. If you have the habit of meditation, then it's easier to sit down and meditate and not delay and not put it off. My guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, used to say, make a daily appointment with God and keep it when you meditate. So if you think like that, oh, when I meditate, I'm going to have an opportunity to commune with God or the infinite, you wouldn't miss meditation if you look forward to it with that sense of anticipation. So make a daily appointment with the infinite and be there, show up on time, and sit for the period of time that you decide to sit. Beginning meditators are usually advised to meditate 20 minutes or so at each time, because if you meditate longer than that, if you're a beginner, you might find that you're getting bored or restless, you are not able to concentrate. But once you learn how to sit for 20 minutes easily, then you can extend the time to 25 or 30 minutes or maybe even an hour, whatever is comfortable. And more important than length of time is depth of practice. Being 100% there, completely there, involved in the process, that is important. To sit for an hour and daydream and let your memories run wild and not concentrate or go to sleep is not useful. It's better to have a shorter meditation session and be very alert and attentive and aware, and then come out of meditation and go about your duties, and perhaps again meditate later. There are some people, for instance, who meditate early in the morning to start their day, then again late in the afternoon or early evening to sort of get unstressed if they've had a busy day, and so they like to do it that way. I meditate early in the morning. I got into the habit of early morning meditation many years ago. So I still, after almost 70 years of being a meditator, I met my guru Paramahansa Yogananda almost 70 years ago, in 1949. It'll be 70 years next year. But years ago, when I was just learning, under Yogananda's direction, I would get up in the morning at 3 a.m. and meditate 4 hours. No, I don't recommend that for everyone. I was a monk at the time, and if you're in a monastic environment or an ashram environment, or for a short period of time in a retreat environment, you can meditate longer. But today, I still wake up every morning at 4 a.m. I just wake up at 4 a.m. And my wife and I live about 8 miles from here, from CSA headquarters. And by the time I go to the shower and shave and come out to the kitchen, breakfast is prepared. And we have breakfast. I watch the morning news to catch the weather, mainly the weather report. And then I leave, and I am here, but usually by 5 a.m. in the morning. And I go to my office, which is a private house on the property, and I go into the back room, and where I have my computer and a little altar with pictures of the gurus and some other religious symbolism. And I turn off the light and I meditate. That's when I meditate, early in the morning. And because it's quiet, outside is quiet, nature is still quiet, the phone doesn't ring, no one knows I'm there. It's very peaceful. So I do that 6 days a week. You know, at home on Saturdays I usually work at the computer and do some writing. But again, on Sunday, like today, I come in every Sunday morning and lead a morning meditation in the meditation hall here. So I just mentioned that because I want to let you know that I do what I recommend that you do. I'm not a person who says, "Oh, you ought to do this." I don't do it anymore, but you should. I do it. And so I remember something Paramahansa Yogananda said on one occasion. He had the habit of meditating early morning for 2 or 3 hours, and also that's when he did his prayer work on behalf of disciples and for the world harmony and so forth. And someone asked him, who knew him very well, asked him a question. He said, "Sir, I have known you for years, and you always seem to be God conscious. So why do you devote early morning hours to meditation when you're always conscious of your relationship with God or the infinite?" And Paramahansa Yogananda said, "How can I share the Spirit of God with others if I am not saturated, if I am not filled with it myself?" So he did it every day. He stayed in seclusion in his room early morning to meditate, to pray, to think about disciples wherever they were in the world, to radiate goodwill to the world and so forth. First, to go into a deep superconscious state of consciousness, we call a Sanskrit word, we call it samadhi, transcendence, awareness of pure existence, pure being, pure oneness. And then afterwards, before concluding the session, then he would think about other people in the world, his disciples, and individuals, and the world as a whole, and radiate goodwill to everyone, as we did earlier. And it's good to do that, because just doing that, even if you don't see fast results out there, it's good for you to do it. It's good for us to do it, because it provides us with peace of mind. It settles our emotions. It clarifies our awareness. It helps us to be in tune or in harmony with a larger reality. And so being compassionate and caring for the welfare of others is very important. But back to meditation routine again. We've talked about some of the techniques. Another form of practice is when you're sitting in the silence and you are very still, you contemplate your pure essence, contemplate being pure existence, pure consciousness. And if you want to imagine that you hear a sound throughout the universe, the sound of Om throughout the universe, and that you are merging with that, that can be helpful. You don't actually have to hear it. You may hear subtle sounds in the ears because of sounds produced by your own nervous system. But whatever sound you hear, if you hear it, just listen to it for a while, and then identify with it somewhat, and then don't stop there. Remember that the cosmic sound that produces the universe has an origin. Its origin is what I call the expressive aspect of ultimate reality, or that reality people call God, and turn your attention to that. In other words, go to the source. Go to the source. Don't just stay there and feel good, but go to the source. What is the source of that sound? What is the source of everything? The source of everything is that ultimate reality. And then aspire to go beyond your first idea or experience of ultimate reality, beyond a sense of communion with it, to go beyond to an experience of pure being, pure existence, transcendence. Transcendence. And don't be afraid of experiencing transcendence or pure consciousness. because that is, at the deepest level of being, your true nature anyway. And when you experience it, it'll be very familiar. So it's not that you're going to get out of your body. Don't think about getting out of your body. You're not going to get out of your body. And just contemplate pure being, pure existence, joyous existence, pure joyous existence. Just be there in that experience of pure joyous existence. And it's very restful and very refreshing. And then when you come out of that meditation, you'll notice, as perhaps you already noticed when you meditate effectively, that you are more discerning. Your intellect is more sharper and more reliable. You can think more rationally. You're more calm and peaceful, poised, more objective. You can observe what's going on in your environment with objectivity without being upset or disturbed by what is happening if it doesn't please you or if it's not pleasant to observe. In today's world, there are many things we learn about, especially on the television news and through other news media. There are many things that occur that are not pleasant, that don't make us happy if we are, But the one thing we do notice, that in due time, they pass away. They change. That's one thing to remember. And change is part of the universe. It's built into the universe. Change is constant. Things are constantly changing. And we can also learn to see what is good and beautiful and useful in our world. We don't have to always look at the bad side of life or be unduly disturbed by temporary misfortune or unpleasant news. We can learn to be objective. In Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is advice about how to be mentally calm and emotionally stable in all situations. And the advice given in that one sutra or that one verse in that text is this: cultivate an attitude of friendship with everyone and all forms of life. Feel that you are a friend of everyone and all forms of life, and all life is friendly toward you. Then be happy for the good fortune that other people have. Don't be envious. Don't say, oh, they've got it and I don't, and that's not fair. If others have good fortune, be happy. Rejoice. Be thankful for them. And be thankful for your own good fortune that you have. And observe the world. Observe changing situations with detachment, with understanding detachment. You're interested, you're concerned, but you're not emotionally reactive. And that way you have peace of mind all the time. You have peace of mind. And you're able to make right decisions and perform right actions without being emotionally reactive. And then say, well, I shouldn't have done that, or I wish I didn't feel like this. I wish I didn't get depressed or unhappy or feel mean-spirited. No, when you are peaceful inside and you observe the world with understanding, then you are happier and you're more fun to be with too. Other people say, oh, you're very nice to be with. You're very calm and peaceful and loving and compassionate and forgiving. Is wonderful. So we have to work on ourselves to be what we can be. That's the important thing. The world is not going to change for us, but if we have to, we can change ourselves so that we can be peaceful, happy, spiritually conscious, live effectively, and so on. So back to meditation again. We continue until we get to the end of the practice session, and then we emerge feeling happy, peaceful, and then go about our business and attend to our duties efficiently. And it's important, I believe, to have some sense of higher purposes in life. You know, last time we were together, I talked about accomplishing 4 major purposes in life. 1, finding our place in the universe, we're the right place for us and functioning there effectively, so that we know this is where I belong. And 2, having our desires, which when fulfilled will enhance or improve our lives and the lives of others, having them easily fulfilled. And 3, having resources that are necessary for our comfort and security and mobility, that is freedom to function and accomplish things, having them available, having resources available, material resources. And then 4th is to be self-realized, to be spiritually enlightened. We don't want to forget that. If we have the first 3, we might say, wow, human life is wonderful. But after a while, even people who have good human life, many of them say something is missing. I like to be healthy, I like to be happy, I like to be prosperous, I like to be successful, and I am, but something is missing. What is it? They are not self-realized yet. They are not spiritually awake. And that's what's missing. So we have, you know, we have a balanced, fulfilled life in every way, outer way, but we also want to see to our spiritual well-being. We want to make sure that we are spiritually conscious and that we are completely spiritually awake. Not that we simply wake up to a level where we can function better and have a happier human life. It's all right to do that, but we don't want to stop there. We want to awaken completely awaken to that stage which is called complete enlightenment or complete conscious, accurate knowledge of our true nature and relationship with the infinite, and that is permanent because our awareness and our mind is so pure that there is no possibility of ever getting off course or off track. And this is called liberation, when the mind and awareness is completely free from all, how shall we say, all false or flawed beliefs and ideas. And when there are no more troublesome subconscious impulses that disturb or cause problems, when we are free of those conditions that mar or blur our awareness and interfere with our conscious realization of what we are, when we are free from those conditions and totally or fully awake, that is the state of spiritual enlightenment and liberation of consciousness. Meditation is a process that can help us awaken to that stage of liberation of consciousness. And so I encourage you to meditate on a regular schedule. I know that Sevilla encourages you, and you can encourage each other to meditate on a regular schedule in a way that is beneficial, and provide time for yourself to learn by practice, learn how to do it, learn what happens when you meditate skillfully. And then after a while, you become very, very proficient, very, very good at it. And you'll notice the very positive benefits. My Guru Paramahansa Yogananda in the early 1920s in America traveled and lectured all over the United States, and he attracted audiences of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. And he told of one occasion when a man approached him and said, "Sir, I enjoy hearing you talk. I enjoy being with you. And what you say sounds very good, but how do I know that it will be of value to me?" And Yogananda said to him, "You practice for 6 months, as I tell you to practice, and then come back to me and tell me what you have experienced. In other words, if you do it, you'll have positive results. If you just don't do it, you'll be talking about it. But if you do it on a regular basis, after a while you say, "Oh, this is what happens when I meditate. This is what the changes that occur." And you learn by doing, and you become very skillful. And then in time you can teach others to do it, because by your example first, and then by your knowledge that you have acquired by regular attentive practice. So thank you for this opportunity that you have provided for me to be with you today. And I think of you with love and goodwill constantly. And I want you to know that even though we are separated by a few thousand miles, that in the spirit we are one, there is wholeness, there is no division. And that's good to know. So I wish you well, and until next time, namaste.